If you have never opened Photoshop before, you notice that you have a similar interface like mine, except you don't have anything where it says recent. So you wouldn't have any recent files in here. The recent files only show up if you've opened Photoshop before and you've worked in it. Now, the question you want to know is, how do I get into the program to begin to use it? So what you want to do is go to File, click on New, and a window opens up for you. Now, with this window, you can choose any of the templates that have been set for you, but you can also customize your own canvas size. So if you choose any of this, Photoshop will open for you. But let's say you want to have a canvas size of 10 by 10. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your dimension is in inches, and then you can go to your width, type in 10, and maybe your height 10. We're going to make the width 14. And I always like to keep my resolution at 300. When you want to print, you want to make sure that you get a very high quality print. So I always like to work in a higher resolution. Now, with the background, you can set it to transparent, or you can set it to white or black. I like to set mine to white. You normally set it to transparent when you're doing a logo that you don't want to see a background with the logo design. So with this set, we're going to click on Create to open our file. So once Photoshop is open for you, I'm pretty sure you're like, what is this and what do I do? So I'm going to make this simple for you. The white border you see is what is your canvas. So think of yourself as a painter who is painting. Now, a painter has a canvas, so it's a defined boundary on which you can work. Anything outside that, you cannot work on that. So the white area is your canvas, and your gray area is basically your workspace. Now, you can change your workspace depending on what color your canvas is. Let's say if you have a gray canvas, you don't want your workspace to also be gray. So you have the option of right-clicking anywhere in the gray area outside your canvas, and you can go to Select Custom and choose any color that you want, and you can choose any color. And if you're not sure how to choose a color, you can just use your mouse to drag anywhere on this bar, and it will choose any color that you want. Once you're satisfied, you can click on that color that you want and click OK, and it changes it for you. Now, the purple is too much, so we're going to right click and we want to choose the gray. Now, you can see that there are default options. You can either choose a black, a dark gray, or a medium gray. So we're going to stick with our medium gray. I like that. Okay, so now that you have your canvas where you're going to work, now the next question is, what is on my left-hand side and right? Now, on the left-hand side, you have your toolbar. Now, your toolbar allows you to move your drawing. It allows you to crop. It allows you to erase, paint over, do so many things. And I will walk you through a few of them, such as the type tool, which allows you to type in a text. Now, at the very top, you have the menu bar. Basic thing you need to know about the menu bar as a beginner is that if you want to save a file, you go to File, and then you can hit Save and save your work that way. You can close Photoshop by going to that. You can also export a file. So these are the basic, and you can also create a new canvas. So these are the basic things you need to know. But as you progress in Photoshop, you get to use all of these other tools under the menu bar, and so on and so forth. Now, right below the menu bar, you see another little slip of options that are available. Those options change depending on which tool you choose. So as I choose the Move tool, you realize that the options I see are different than if I'm on the Type tool. It's the same thing if I'm on the eraser, it changes. If I choose the brush, you realize that that option also changes for me. Now, on the right-hand side, you have your color options that you can choose any color that you want. Right below is your property bar. Now, right below your property, you have the layers panel. Now, the layers panel allows you to basically layer your work and keep it well organized, and allows you to move elements above and put other elements below. Now, besides that, the layers panel has a lot more to offer, such as turning off layers that you don't need, such as locking layers. So you can use this to lock a layer. And let's say that you want to turn off this layer. When you click on the eye, it basically takes off anything that is on that particular layer. So the next thing that I want to show you is how you can bring in an image, because that is the key thing, is that Photoshop has to do with a lot of layering, and you need to know how to bring in images that you are going to use to create your art. So let's say we want to bring in an image. So I'm going to go into this folder, and there are a couple of ways that you can bring in an image. You can drag an image in from your folder. You can right click and also bring that image into Photoshop. So if I want to drag this image, I can just go like that and drag it in and double click, and it shows up. Now, if I want to bring the file in without dragging it in, I can right click and say that open in Photoshop, and it will open it in Photoshop, but it will open it under a different tab. Now, I want to go back to this image. Let's say that you want to enlarge this image. You don't want the whites at the top and the bottom. Before we move forward, I want to tell you that I'm using Photoshop 2021 version. Now, how do you know if you have Photoshop 2021? At the very top, it should tell you that for the basis of what I'm teaching you, you should be able to do most of the stuff regardless of what version of Photoshop you're on. So if I want to move this image, I'm going to click on the image, and notice that in my layers panel, that layer is activated. So if once that layer is activated, it means that anything I do will only affect that layer. So if I want to move this layer up, I can drag it and move it up. And notice that as I'm moving it up, you can see that I have some guidelines. Now, those guidelines are activated because under my move tool, I have my snap on. So if you don't see your guide showing, then you need to turn on your move. You need to turn on your snaps. Now, let's say my image is somewhere here and I want to center it. So I can just move it and set it right there, and that centers it for me. Besides using this to center my image, there's another way you can also center your image. So you can go to the very top, click on these three dots, and you want to go to select and choose canvas. Now, once you choose canvas, now these elements are activated for you. It will allow you to center, to align or right, or align top or bottom. So let's say this image is somewhere here and I want it in the center. So I can click on this to move it up, and I can also click on this and that centers it. If I want it to go to the top, I just click on that and it will move it up for me. So that is how you can use your move tool and also your alignment tool. So if I want to enlarge this image so it fills up the entire canvas, this is what you can do. With your move tool activated, you can just drag, holding one corner of these boxes, and it will scale it for you. And you can center it like that by moving it. Double click to accept the changes. Now, I'm sure some of you are asking, well, I don't see those boxes next to my image. And the reason being that you don't have your auto select on or your show transform. So if I take those two off and I even click on my image, yes, I can move it, but those activations are not on. So you need to make sure you turn those on to do it. Now, if you have an older version of Photoshop and you don't see your show transform or your auto and you want to rescale, you have to go to edit and click on transform and click on scale. So once you click on that, that same activation is made available for you and you can scale and make your image big or small. So I'm going to double click to accept. I'm going to go back and check my auto select and my transform. Now, the question is, what if I want to type in a text, a basic text on my image? To type in the text, you need to click on the T on your toolbar, which is called the type tool. Now, the type tool allows you to type. So you click on that. Once you click on that, you see that a cursor is activated for you to begin to type in. So you can begin to type in right away, but if I want to change my color to, let's say, white, right now I have a red. So to change it to white, you see this little icon, which is the black and white. Those are the default foreground and background color. So if you click on that, it gives you the default in Photoshop. So if I want to type, but I want my text in white and not in black, you need to click on this arrow. It will flip it for you. So if you have a black and you want to change the color, all you need to do is double click on the arrow and it will change it whichever way you want. Now I can go ahead and begin to type. So I can click anywhere and type in happy or silent, like that, or shh. So silent, or let me highlight and do shh, like that. And if you want to move this, notice that once you type it in, the cursor is still showing. So you can click on your move tool. Now you can move this any way you want. Now, if you want to, first of all, change the font type, you can double click on your text. It will highlight it for you, and you can go up here to all the different font options that you have, and you can change it to whatever font you want. And once you come out of it, you get your font changed. Now notice that the moment you picked type tool to type, you notice that it created a layer for you. Now, when you bring in images, Photoshop automatically generates a layer. When you type in a text, Photoshop automatically generates a layer for you. But there are other things that when you're doing, you will have to basically create a new layer. Like when you want to change the background color of, let's say, this subject, but you just want a solid color, which we will be touching up very soon. So let's say that I finished typing in my text, but now I want to change the color. So what do? You can double click and you can come up here to your color options and you can choose whatever color you want, and you can see it changing right here in your property, or you can also see it right here at the top like that. So let's say that we want to increase the size of our text. You can do it two ways. So you can double click on your text and you realize that your toolbar, you realize that you have more options right here. You can go here and you can change your font style, size, or you can even type it in. Let's say I want 200. So it will make it a lot bigger, and you can use my move tool to move it right there. Now, if I double click on this, notice that apart from the size, I also have the option of changing the style. Depending on what font you choose, you might have more options. You can either center your text, or left adjust, or right adjust, or center it. Now, besides this option here, you can also use the options under your property to also change either your color. So we can go back and change it to, let's say we want to go back to a red. So we can do this, and I'm going to pick my move tool. If I want to close up my text, I can use my VA to close it up like that. If I want to space out my text, I can do that, or bring it closer like this. Now, if I want to increase my font, I can do the same thing here, or I can use my cursor around my T. As you move your mouse, it makes it bigger or smaller. Now, if I have two texts, I'm gonna go ahead and click here, click enter, and add quiet. So if I type in quiet, and let's say I want to make sure that my spacing between the two is a little bit more, I can use my A over A to increase my spacing. If I want it a little bit closer, I can close it up like that. So I'm going to double click on this, and we're going to keep our color to white. So you just saw me flipping in between my foreground and background, and I got that color. To scale it down, I'm just going to hold one end and either scale it down like that, make it smaller like that, or you can go to your property and either increase your font or decrease your font. Let's say we want to change the background of our subject. We want something different. So what you want to do is that you want to first of all click on that layer. We want to get rid of the background. Now, there are a couple of ways to do that. If you're using a 2021 version or 2020, the very easiest way to do this is go under your property, and then you want to look for the quick action. Now, if you don't see your quick action, it means that the image you brought in is not a layer. So you need to first of all convert it into a layer before you can change the background. So I'm going to click on convert to layers. It will ask me, do you want to retain, transform, apply? I'm going to say yes. Now my image has been converted into a layer. Now I can see my quick action. You want to click on your quick action. You want to click on that again, and it gives you the option to remove the background. So I'm going to click on remove background, and it basically takes off the background for me. Now you can't see it completely because this white layer is showing. I'm going to just delete it. Now to delete this layer, you just drag this layer to your trash icon and it goes away, or you can select that layer and click delete on your keyboard. So now that we've taken off the background, if I want to add, let's say, a different color background, there are a couple of ways of doing it. You can add a new layer, but you want to make sure that you move that layer beneath your picture, your subject layer, so that when you paint over it, it doesn't cover up your image. So if I want to fill the background in, you want to click on your foreground. It opens up your color picker. You can choose any color you want. You can choose any color, click OK. Use your paint bucket and click inside, and it will fill that in for you. Now, this is one way to do it. Now, there's another way to do it, which is much easier. So you want to go under adjustment and you want to click on solid color. Now, when you use this technique, I will explain to you what happens in a second. So let's say I want to choose, we're going to go with like this blue, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, the good thing about using a solid color is that you can change the color in a split second. If I want a different color, I can double click and then I can choose a purple. And you notice that while I'm choosing it, it's changing it at the same time for me. I can see it. and I can click OK. Now watch what happens with the one we created before. If I turn off this, if I turn off the visibility, you notice that this layer is no more activated. Now, what we only see is the red one. Now, if I want to change the red color, I can just double click on it to change it. It will bring up something else. Now, it means that I have to go to my foreground. The color picker comes up. I can choose, let's say, a purple, but it's still not showing up. I have to click OK and then pick my paint bucket and now paint it in before it shows up. So you see that there are multiple steps that you have to do to get to this step. Meanwhile, when you use the solid color, you can go ahead, double click and switch it up to whatever color you want, and automatically it changes it for you and you can see it right away. So I prefer using the solid color and it makes your work much easier. So now the next thing that I want to show you is that if you have an image that you cannot take the background off using the quick action tool, I want to show you another way that you can take off your background. So I'm going to click on this black and white, which is the layer mask that is generated for you once Photoshop takes off your background. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete that layer mask. So we are back to the original image. So to take off the background, you can click on your magic wand, which will allow you to see different options. Now you can choose the quick selection tool. When you choose the quick select tool, at the very top of your menu, it gives you select subject or select and mask. We want to choose select subject. Now, if you click on select subject, Photoshop will do a very good job to basically select your subject for you. Now, there is a lot more you can do to refine the hair, but for this basic tutorial, we're not going to go that step. But once you see that your selection has been made, all you need to do is come down to the lower portion of your layers panel. You will see the square rectangle icon with a circle in the middle. Click on that. It will create a layer mask, and you notice that that also takes off the background for you if you're using an older version. Now, if I want to use the purple background instead of the blue, I have to turn off the visibility, and now I have a purple background. Now, the next question is, what if I want to bring in a whole new image to replace my background? You can do that. So let's go to our folder and we want to bring in another image. So we can drag this image in. Once you drag it in, notice that it falls right on top of your image, and that's not what we want. We want it to be in the background. So first of all, whenever you see this check, you need to double click to accept the file that you brought into Photoshop. Now we want to move this image below. So we're going to drag it from the top in our layers panel and put it right beneath our image layer. Now, whenever you see that little blue strip being activated, it means that you can put it in between these two. So we can do it like that. Now, if we want to drop it even further, you can still do that. You can take it all the way to the next layer. Now, if I want to increase this, I can go ahead and resize and just position it like that. Now, I have this lady on a beach. So this is how you bring in an image. I'm going to turn this off. Now, let's say you already have an image here and you want to bring this image into this tab. Now, what you can do is click on this image. With your move tool selected, you can just drag your image and set it right here and it will show up. So we're going to move our image to the corner And I'm going to just go ahead, hold one end and scale it like that, double click, and guys, we have a new background. And that is how you can bring in another image. What if I don't like this color of background? I like the break, but I want it in a different color. Well, you can do that very easily. So what you want to do is that you want to click on the layer that you want to change the color of. Now you want to go under your adjustment and you want to click on your adjustment. It will bring up so many different options. You want to click on hue and saturation. Now, when you click on hue and saturation, look at what happens. You can begin to change the color. And once you begin to move your slider, it changes the color of your break for you to whatever color you want. Even a purple break, you can get that. Now, notice that because I brought in this hue, everything below the hue layer, the color purple has been applied to it. But we only want to apply it to the break layer and not everything below. I want to show you something before I clip the hue saturation. So if I turn off the break layer, you notice that my purple color changes to almost an orange color, and it's because the hue color is being affected, is being applied to that. Now, when I turn on my beach background, notice that that color is also different. It's not the blue that we knew it to be. And the reason being that this hue saturation adjustment has been applied to everything below that layer. So if you want to apply the hue to just the layer beneath, you want to hold down Options on your keyboard and you realize that a little icon has been activated for your mouse. You want to click in between the two lines and it will clip it. So the changes that you're making will only be applied to the layer beneath. So if we turn on the break, you realize that the color is only affecting the break layer. If I want to, let's say, change it to another color, I can go ahead and do that. I can do whatever I want. Now, even if I want it to be a deeper of that same color, I can brighten it like that with my saturation, or if I want to take a little bit more of the color out, I can do that. So we have something like this. So let's say that we want to make our subject black and white. You can click on that image and go to Image Adjustment and choose black and white, and it will change it. Just click OK. It will change it for you. But this is a destructive way to do it. So once you change your image using this method, it becomes a destructive layer and you cannot change it. There's another alternative, and I want to show you how to do that. So we are going to press Command Z to go back. That is basically undo. Now you can either do Command Z or you can go to Edit. You can go to Edit and click on Undo or Redo, depending on what you want. Now I can click on my layer, go to my adjustment, and I can click on black and white. Now you realize that Photoshop gives you a black and white layer, but it applied the color also to the background. And this is what I was talking about. Whenever you apply adjustment level, you want to only clip it to the image that you want it to affect, or the layer that you want it to affect. So I'm going to hold on my Options and I'm going to clip that layer. Once you clip it, you realize that the layers, the adjustment only is applied to that particular layer right beneath. Now, if I change my mind and I want to have the subject in color, all I have to do is turn off the eye, which is the visibility of that layer, and you have your color back. But if I want to turn it back on, I can go ahead and do that. So that is how you can basically change any image to black and white in a non-destructive way. So the last thing that I want to do is to show you how you can add a few effects to your text. So we are going to click on our image. With our move tool activated, we're going to move our subject, let's say, to this corner. Now, let's say that we want to go ahead and increase our font. We're going to make it a little bit big. And I'm going to double click, and we want to change the color to bada boom. And we want to, of course, go ahead and increase the scale. And like I told you, you can increase the font style, and we can also increase the spacing on the bottom as well. So we have this look. Now, let's say that we want to add, maybe we want to change the color and also add a drop shadow. So we can do it multiple ways. We can change the color by double clicking, and we can choose any color that we want. Let's say even a purple like that, or the yellow. Let's say we choose something like that. But then we want to add a drop shadow. So you want to double click on the right hand corner of that layer. The layer style will come up. Now you can move this box. It doesn't have to be right where it is. You can move it out of the way like that, and you can set it here so that all the changes you're doing, you can see it. So I can add a basic shadow. So you click on your drop shadow, you can add a shadow. Now when you add the shadow, you can click on that layer style. It will give you other options, and you can decrease the shadow, make it smaller. You can decrease the spread, make it a little bit smaller, and so on and so forth. So you can play with it. You can change the angle of your shadow as well. You can decrease the opacity. It means how dark that color is seen as the shadow. You can make it lighter or a little bit darker. If you want to increase your shadow, you want it more bigger, you can increase your distance like that. Now, let's say that I want a different color for my shadow instead of a black. You can double click on the color option, and let's say we can choose a white. That is if we want a white. I'm going to click OK, and I can reduce my spread so I can see it, and I can increase my opacity so I can see the white showing well. I can decrease my distance so it's not too much, but I can still see the shadow. Now, the next thing is, if I want to add a stroke effect, like I want to add like a white border around my text, I can do that. I can click on my stroke, and you realize that it can add a white thickness around my text. I can either increase or decrease the stroke thickness. I can click on that option, and I can either decrease it or increase it like that. Now, the last one that I think you can also use as a beginner is your gradient overlay. Now, your gradient overlay allows you to basically change your text color from a 1 color to a 2, a 3, or even more. So if you're curious and you want to know how you can have multiple colors on your font, you want to double click on your gradient. Now, Photoshop gives you another option for you to play with. So you can first of all change the angle of your gradient by clicking anywhere in your angle, or you can type it in. And you can also click on your gradient, and you can choose whatever color you want. We can choose a purple. We can choose this blue. It changes it for us. You can go into the purple family. You can choose any purple of your choice. And you can also see the preview right there. You can go into your orange. You can go to your pink, choose something else. Or we can go to our reds. We can choose something like this. If we want, any color option that you want is available for you to choose. You can go into your orange and choose any color of your choice. And you can click OK to come out of it. And there you go. you've been able to add a text, add a stroke effect, change the color to either a gradient or a solid color, and even add a shadow. And we've also been able to bring in a subject, change the color of the background, or even bring in an image to replace the background. Oh, and the last thing that I forgot to tell you is that if you are maybe using your layer style and maybe some of your tools begin to move, this moves and that moves, and you're not sure what is happening and you don't know how to easily put them back, the easiest way is to go under Windows, go to Workspace, and then you want to click on Reset Essential. Now Photoshop will default it back to its original and your confusion comes to an end. So this is it, guys. I hope that this was very helpful and easy to follow. So guys, if you want a part 2 of this, comment below, let me know, and I will be happy and glad to take you through another lesson on Photoshop beginner tutorial. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, please share this with somebody so that they too can learn and also become experts at using Photoshop. So until next time, guys, please be safe. Bye.